Hey there, Alan Matthews here. In this video, we're going to talk about how you can practice still if you've hurt your right hand. If you've got a sprain, if you cut it, if it's been lobbed off, whatever has happened, you can still practice. So you don't have to hang up your guitar practice altogether, but there are other things you can do, and that's what we're going to talk about. So the first thing to remember is that when you hurt your hand, your number one job is to rest that hand and let it heal. Rest is the number one thing that could happen. You don't need to be grinding and massaging it. You don't need to be doing all this other stuff. Just let it rest. The least you can use it, you will heal faster. So that said, then try not to be so tempted to just work through it, work through the pain. It doesn't work. It just creates more pain. First thing, let it rest. The next thing is we've got to then do something different, right? I mean, this is fairly obvious, but it's easy to miss. That means that you can either do left-hand stuff or you can do things that concern general knowledge. So this means you could be studying music theory, you could do listening, you could browse through new music, you could organize your practice space, you could polish your guitar, you could do just anything around the guitar so long as you're putting in time on it. One of the best things that you could do is to practice your visualization. Visualization is such a huge part of playing the guitar, and mental representations form such a massive part of mastery of anything. Also, working on your bodily tension and the way that you use your body. This is oftentimes very much overlooked because there's so many things to do when we're practicing. There's so many details in our fingers that we forget about this whole thing. So just practicing sitting here, practicing touching the instrument and releasing a shoulder, or releasing a face or your tongue or whatever it happens to be. So playing with bodily tension, playing with sitting position, playing with your weight disposition on your, or distribution on your sit bones. So any of this you can do as your practice without the right hand. You can also work on left hand things, and that's what we'll talk about now. Now, what you could do exercises with your left hand using just, say, a thumb if you actually want to hear it. So if you want to do like some slur exercise, whatever it happens to be, you could do a slur exercise with, and then just use a thumb or one finger as a right hand thing. So that you're basically just pawing at it. Or not at all. And just do, something like that, to where you're just doing slur exercises with just the left. Now, one of the things, if you don't want to hear that weird noise, you can put a sock in here, or a piece of dry sponge, or a towel, or anything. You can just slide it up underneath your strings, stick it in and slide it back, and then it'll just mute the strings out so that you can work in that way. The next thing is that you could go through your music and still practice. You can still memorize music. You can work on new music, learn new notes by just looking at what needs to happen in my left hand. And so going. The other thing is that you could go through tricky spots of your pieces and play through with the left hand, but just barely touch instead of fully pressing. So if you've got some spots that are hard, let's say that you've got some big stretch like this, or there's this chord in the Villalobos first etude, it's a massive stretch. Well, one of the things you could do is practice putting a thing on and working the stretch, but not actually using any strength. So you're playing very gently and just touching the strings where they need to go. And then that way you can use that as just a nice practice to do that. Whereas in your normal practice with your right hand, you may just not take the time to do it that way. So you can really solve some left hand problems in your pieces with playing in this way. You could also just do it, full on. The other thing is that with your left hand, you could actually do some things that the right hand normally does, like rasguiados. You could do rasguiados. You could flip your guitar around and actually play rasguiados. Use your left hand in ways that it normally doesn't get used because there's so much work to do. So just playing in that way, then you can actually gain some new experiences, increase your visualization and mental representations, increase your strength and agility with the left while still letting the right hand rest, which is the number one thing. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you soon. Bye.